Tanzania. As is our custom, this webinar will be recorded. For those of your colleagues that are unable to join, they can connect remotely to a link on the Stripe website. That's stripe.afrihealth.org. And from probably late tomorrow or Thursday, they should be able to access a recording of the webinar. So let me begin our outline today. We're going to start with some fun awards, the video narrative awards. I'm going to speak briefly about the AfriHealth Symposium and encourage you all to share your Stripe experiences at that venue, and then we'll end by hearing from Agnes Masoka and colleagues from Tanzania. So first of all, let me just say thank you to all of those of you that encourage students at your institutions to submit video narratives or little clips summarizing their experience of Stripe and how the approach to learning and the HIV content and the team-based format was interesting, novel, or transformative for them. We had some really great submissions, some really fun submissions, and in fairness, we were spoilt for choice in terms of coming up with some winners. However, recognizing that not everybody has had the opportunity to engage their learners, their students around this video award, have students that are still interested in sharing their experience of Stripe. We welcome those late submissions. So we're going to award 3 awards today, but leave it open to you and your students to submit for the last 2 awards. If you recall, we had announced 5 awards, being available back in November. So in 3rd place, Philip Chijiwa from University of Zimbabwe gave a really lovely summary of his experience, and I'm happy to share all of these, but in the interest of time, I'm just going to give you the winner's video right now. In 2nd place, a most enthusiastic video from Natsabeng Tshabalala, who's a nursing student from SMU in South Africa. And the 1st place goes to the Nigerian team, and they actually submitted 3 related videos, which were just really lovely. They were submitted by Sian on behalf of a set of students. So the award goes to the MEPIN team, and Sian can identify who the exact learners were who participated. But let me just share one of the 3 videos that the team put together in Nigeria, just to give you a sense of what they were up to. So I'm going to press play now, and hopefully you can hear this.
The concept of the picture is basically to promote interprofessionalism. So as you can see in the picture, we have 3 major highlights. One, which is we are all holding our hands together and our heads are all together. Then 2, it is patient-centered. It says that we are all focused on one particular thing. And 3, which is the fact that we all have smile on our faces. That is, the patient is the core center of the work.
Right, so congratulations to the Stripe Nigeria or Stripen team and to Sian for putting that together. I see the MEPIN Ibadan team is on the call today, so congrats to you, and the prize will be coming to you shortly. So thank you all, and again, if there are videos that you want to share with us, we'd happily showcase them, and we have 2 more prizes that will be up for grabs. So let me move on now to a really important topic, which is the AfriHealth Symposium. And I really just want to have you all save the date, August 5th through 7th. I know that many of you have already got that on your schedules for for later in the year. But we at Stripe are really excited to use this venue to bring you all together and showcase the work that you have been doing. And later this year, we will share some of the programmatic issues. It is our hope that we'll be able to bring the same cohort of PIs and PDs from across the Stripe network together and accommodate that from a financial point of view. But even in advance of those programmatic details, we wanted to make sure that top of mind was the opportunity for you to share your experiences of Stripe through the abstract and poster presentations that the AfriHealth Symposium will afford us. And we think this is a great opportunity for early career investigators and facilitators across your institutions to submit posters, or rather submit abstracts that are relevant to Stripe at this venue. And specifically, our hope is that your teams would consider sharing through the abstract submission process, either your experience and of how you evaluated Stripe, how did Stripe lead to improvements in HIV knowledge, or use of a team-based approach to learning in your setting, or secondly, a description of the curriculum innovation that you implemented through Stripe at your facility. And I know that many of you have done more than just implement the training modules that was developed, but you've been thinking about using the Stripe projects to strengthen graduate tracking processes, or provide mentorship for early career health professionals, even setting up things like podcasts and online resources, new modules. Well, the AfriHealth Symposium, I think, provides a great opportunity to showcase your experience and successes and maybe failures in that venue. So we would love you to consider submitting for that venue. And so with that in mind, AfriHealth and the local organizing committee have made February 25th the deadline for submissions. So please keep that on your mind as you think about what your team would like to submit. I wanted just to spend 2 minutes going over the kinds of things you might want to include in an abstract that you would share with AfriHealth. This is just a sort of a fairly generic abstract. I don't think the AfriHealth organizing committee have as yet provided a template for submission. So go ahead and use this. I suggest these headings or titles for the different components of the abstract. What's the purpose? What were you seeking to do through Stripe in your setting? Some background. How was your Stripe project informed by knowledge of around a particular element, whether it's interprofessional approaches to care or the use of quality improvement, some aspect of HIV education, and then methods describe the approach used. How did you evaluate it? How's the data collected? And this is a piece that we at UCSF can help with in terms of making data available to you, and I'll come to that in a second. Results, I think, should be fairly obvious, or if there's an element that you want to share where you don't have results, I think this would be a great opportunity rather to include results. Suggest an evaluation plan. Describe the outcomes that you hope to use to demonstrate efficacy. So, for example, right now we have no way of really formally assessing impact of Stripe on clinical outcomes for people with HIV. But our hope is that that will follow from your endeavor. But what are the interim or the indicators in between clinical outcomes and student learning that you could look at that would allow us to assess impact if you're able to collect it. And then as with all abstracts, we encourage you to think about in the discussion section, concisely summarizing the conclusions, or describe, your plans for dissemination if the element that you want to summarize you don't have data for yet. And then, as is common with health education research, pausing at the end for some reflective critique, I think, would be useful, describing the steps taken to obtain feedback, regarding your project, etc. So these are just my own thoughts, with input from colleagues here at UCSF around what an abstract would look like. Obviously, it's up to you guys to decide what element you might want to share. I think the bottom line is that we would love for all of the Stripe partners to consider sharing something. So that raises the big question about your data from your projects, and you have all been having your learners submit their pre and post tests on the online platform, and we can now give each of your institutions the summary of all of that data in an Excel format for you to review and interrogate. Maybe I should just pause here and say that the collection of all of the pre and post test data from your Stripe trainings, including the qualitative summaries from the learners, is collected under a UCSF specific IRB exemption. So we have ethical review board approval at UCSF to collect the aggregate data, and we are then able to share in an anonymous, de-identified manner your institution-specific content back with you. And that's the piece that is covered by our IRB. I think, if you have plans to do additional focus groups or additional scholarly evaluations, you may well need to determine if you need local IRB review board approval to do that. But I can certainly guarantee, we can certainly share with you that de-identified institution-specific data for you to use. And I'd encourage you to reach out to us via the Stripe website, via the Stripe email, so that you can access that data. And what we can provide you is close to real-time summary of the data. So if you had Stripe trainings over the last weekend, then by today we will have updated data for you to share. We'll release that data to the PI for your institution. So if you're one of the team but not the PI, I encourage you to have that person reach out to us via the Stripe UCSF email, and we can share that data. And then the last piece is recognizing that any academic submission benefits from an iterative peer review process. We at UCSF and faculty from AfriHealth are on hand to support your abstract development process. And I encourage you to reach out to us at stripehiv@ucsf.edu to determine who can provide you with the most useful feedback. And so within our team here in San Francisco, my colleague Cheyenne Martin, who is on the call today, she has some expertise around doing qualitative analysis and summarizing qualitative data, and is willing to be on hand to help you, review your data or help summarize your qualitative data. So feel free to reach out to her. My colleague Deborah, many of you will know Deborah von Tickenagel, is really like a leading expert on HIV. So if you have issues around the technical content, please reach out to Deborah. And then Jess Salentano can offer some quantitative smarts that might help if you're thinking of how do you analyze your data. And then David Sears, one of our other team members, is a health professionals researcher and can offer his input on that aspect. So feel free to reach out to us if we can help in the review and the writing of your abstracts. By all means do that, but reach out to us by February 15th, just so that you have enough time to put together your summary, your abstract, and ensure that it's of the highest quality. So that February 15th is a soft deadline, but one that I would encourage you to keep to as you think about what you're going to write and submit to the ADIS symposium. And so my ambitious goal is that every program, every partner within Stripe should be able to submit something summarizing your impact. And I do think that, as I mentioned at the start of the call, the symposium offers a great venue for early career educators and students to showcase their scholarly work around HIV, especially where, you know, they're incorporating quality improvement modalities or doing interprofessional educational efforts in your setting. And I think it provides an opportunity to drive home the importance of improving quality of HIV by enhancing health professions' education across sub-Saharan Africa. And look, you know, us at UCSF, that's one of the things we're really motivated to support you on. So I've talked a lot, and I want to pause now. Maybe there are questions. If there are, feel free to enter them in the chat box. Otherwise, we can even come back to this at the end of the webinar. But you know, if there are any ADIS-related questions or abstract-related questions, then feel free to share them now, and I'll pause and give you a moment to do that. Okay. Well, you know, at this moment, let me give the speaking rights on the call over to my colleague Agnes in Tanzania. Dr. Agnes Masoka, many of you will know, is leading the Stripe effort in KCMC in Tanzania, and I'm excited for her to share her experience and the Tanzania experience with you all now. Agnes, can you hear me? Can we hear you?
Yes, I can hear you, Mike.
Perfect. So let's do this. You just tell me to advance your slides and I'll move them forward as you're ready.
Okay then. Thank you very much.
And maybe I should just jump in and say, Agnes is going to summarize the experience, you know, what's worked for you, what has been challenging, etc. And again, I'm sure she would welcome feedback from the audience at the end of her presentation. But over to you, Agnes.
Thank you, Mike. I would like to share our experience from KCMC, Tanzania. As you all know that we had 2 districts from the high burden HIV infection, and we get prepared with our meetings and with contact of institutions to build the rapport, arrange the selection of TOTs and participants in advance. They selected the TOTs from obstetric, internal medicine, pediatric department, care and treatment HIV clinic. At the same time, we focused to those worked with the hospital HIV clinic were included, and these were in the form of doctors, nurse midwives, and pharmacists. That is to make an interprofessional team. Next slide, please. The TOTs who have undergone current HIV training courses were the one who we gave higher priority to belong to the group of TOTs. The arrangement for spacious venue was selected before and arranged in a way that it was accessed with surroundings having enough space for group discussions. Then I can say we had enough space accompanying the venue we hired. And the group was arranged in between 8 to 10 students. Next slide, Mike. Modules were assigned to TOTs in advance, and that is the way of making them to be equipped with the modules. Modules assigned according to specialty. Those doctors from obstetric had the topics related to obs and gyn, and those from internal medicine the same, and the same applies to pediatrics. So 2 days of training was used to get this familiarization with the modules. The required additional materials were also prepared in advance and were also distributed among the trainers of the trainers so that they had 2 days to get familiarizing the additional materials before we started the training. So there was a smooth access to the additional materials. Next slide, please. Now let us see facilitation structure. 2 facilitators taught the module. They alternate in leading the modules. So we had to alternate so that the first one will get enough time to relax. Meanwhile, during the discussion, we'll have time to chip in any important point which was not covered by the partner or the colleague, while the other assist and enhance where need arise as well. All facilitators were present during class discussion. That is the team working group working together for all modules. We assist in group discussion and presentations where the need arise. I can say that all the participants, all the facilitators were in the room throughout the training of the 2 days, both to the facilitation area and also to the group's activities. Next slide, please. Facilitation structure continua. We prepared the registration and payment forms, and we arranged participants training package, which was supposed, which we gave the participants on arrival in the morning. When we were registering, we gave them the package. The package composed of the modules of the training and also included the schedule of the training and the additional materials. Arranged seating pattern of participants were arranged before, the day before, so as to save the next day's time. Pattern, I mean, as I said before, included those components of doctors, nurses, pharmacists, and community health trainers. So learners arrange according to the pattern. So you find that doctors, nurses, pharmacists, and community sitting together so as to make teamwork in a mixed pattern. Training started with registration and pre-test. Training ended with participants' implementation plan and post-test. So we had a plan of which the planning originated from the participants. And this is the plan we are using in the evaluation. We are following them to see that they're implementing what they planned, what they promised in their plan. Next slide, please. Now let us see what went well and the recommendations as well. Participants were able to share experiences from different clinical settings. Multidisciplinary experience of participants were well maintained. Cooperation of leadership management, highly recommended for good outcome. Modules arranged in sections and printed for easy access. Motivation of participants to cope with the health professional education was well motivated and maintained. The Stripe HIV model was highly motivating to the facilitator as well as the participants. Next slide, please. Now we had, as you know, whenever you are performing any activity, there's ups and downs. We faced some ups and downs, especially with the delay of fund transfer. This had impact in delaying to start the activities, and also important activities we could not catch up easily because of funds. So borrowing the funds in our environment from other projects was time consuming. as you need to approval, the approval of the respective PI, project investigator or director. This takes time to arrange in a way of meeting the administrative personnel and the higher level contacts. Thank you. Go to the next slide. So you can see here, as I said before, arrangement of the modules. You can see this lady, that is the doctor from pediatric ward with a specialty in pediatrics. He's arranging the module. There is writing the pediatric with HIV module will be taught by pediatric doctors. Distribution of the modules to the facilitators. That's what she's doing there. She's putting the flip chart, and we are sitting at the back, just making a note that this is well documented and be maintained. And you can see the other side is the group going on. This special room was accompanying with the venue we hired, so that as all the groups were in a good space, doing discussion, we start interacting with each other. And you can see the facilitators going round. All facilitators, we had 80 facilitators. And these 80 facilitators were going round throughout the facilitation of the activities to see that the groups are going on well according to the format of all the principles of the group activity. Next slide in case, okay. Here you can see, I go back, the days before we were having these meetings, our director, Professor Mteta, was with us to start planning how the module should be arranged. And you can see 80 facilitators sitting around, and the nurse wearing the uniform is from HIV clinic and the treatment of HIV. She was being invited to this special meeting of arranging the modules, because also she was supposed to be a facilitator, and she was the facilitator for this training. So we were discussing, all of us, from the director to the facilitators and for the key personnel. We are all there to arrange ourselves. How should we approach the teaching of the modules? And here you can see Khadija is our coordinator of the project, is introducing the overview, how Stride HIV started, what was the rationale behind, and what is the outcome of it, and what is the learning, team working group mean, and working as a team, what does it mean? The component of the team, how does it going to be selected? How are we going to attract people to know the importance of team working and such? So all people were happy with this approach. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Agnes.
Thank you very much, Mike.
I think that was the last slide of the presentation, Agnes. So thank you. I'm going to hand the host responsibilities over to my colleague Cheyenne in a second, but just wanted to sort of add my thanks to you, Agnes, and then just start by asking a question. We obviously want to hear if there are other questions from the audience. What do you think the biggest impact has been of this training at your institution? That's my first question. And then the second is recognizing that not all of your facilitators are HIV practitioners. How have you ensured that your facilitators know the content so that they're able to teach it adequately to students? I'd love to get your thoughts, and at this point I'll hand over the host responsibilities to my colleague Cheyenne. Over.
Okay, maybe I start with the second one because I didn't hear the first question. Mike, you remember I said that these facilitators were from 3 departments, that is obstetric, internal medicine, and the pediatric. These facilitators attended the National HIV workshop recently. They've been attended the workshop before. They were trainers of the trainers for HIV before, and they have recently attended the HIV workshop. So we selected the recent ones who were very equipped with the current knowledge of HIV. And these were from those departments as I mentioned before. In our setup in KCMC University and the hospital, when there is a national training of HIV, they used to send people from different departments. And the departments which they earmark is the obstetrics, internal medicine, pediatrics, and the HIV clinic. This is where they send people to go for this national AIDS training, including those from the faculty. I mean, for example, from the nursing, there are teachers who attended the national HIV, also from the various departments of the university. Also, there are some who have attended this. So we all of us know each other. That's why we had to come out with those who are well equipped with the HIV knowledge. I didn't hear the first one, the first question. Can you repeat it?
Sure. So I was curious to know what the biggest impact you think of this training has been in your setting. If there was one thing that you felt like Stripe affected more than anything else, what would that be?
I beg your pardon?
I was curious where you think the greatest value of Stripe was. What element of training or what component of the content was of most value in your setting? So maybe it was the training of facilitators or the knowledge transfer to students. Maybe it was the interprofessional approach. In KCMC, what was the element that you thought had the most value?
You mean the value of this Stripe in our students? Is that what you mean?
Well, maybe the value was in terms of the impact on the students' learning, but maybe it was in terms of what the facilitators learned from the experience, yeah. So I wanted to let you decide where you felt like the highest value of the training was.
Because you find, for example, the knowledge is, the status of our students as regards to the knowledge of HIV, in their curriculum, they just had the introduction to HIV. And they have none of the students have attended the National AIDS Conference before. But you find that in our school, in our institution, in our curriculum, they are being given just an introduction when they are doing the unit of communicable diseases. This is where they come across HIV, only introduction. And you can see some students, they were even sharing their experience by saying, we are happy with this Stripe because they have widened our knowledge of HIV. And they even requested this component of the Stripe arrangement, including the activities, to be included in their curriculum. And the same approach to be used in each department or in different departments when they are teaching HIV. That's what the students were requesting. I don't know whether I've answered what you are asked. Did I meet your point?
Agnes, yes, that sounds great.
That was very helpful.
I'll jump in for the rest of the call. Yeah, thank you for explaining that impact. I have a couple more questions for you. And then in the meantime, everyone else, please use the chat box or chime in with your questions. So my first question is, from the pictures, I could tell that there looked like there were 3 tables of students. And you had mentioned that there were 2 facilitators leading those groups. How did the ratio of facilitators to students go? And do you have any suggestions for other schools?
You mean the selection of the students?
The ratio, so the number of facilitators to the number of students. Did you think that it was manageable to have 2 facilitators over the groups of students?
Yeah, we consider, that's why we selected the 80 facilitators. We know we had to train 64 students in the first training, and in the second training, we had to train 65 newly employed healthcare providers. And we had 80 facilitators.
Okay, so 8 total. And so you were in, how many rooms were you in?
Okay, we had one room, we had one big room, we had one venue, which was a very big room where we kept all the 64 students. And then we had a special area, a special class accompanying the venue. As you can see here, the students in groups. This is the one big venue where these students were kept in groups. We are 8 groups here.
Okay, great. And yeah, I guess I missed before that you had the 8 facilitators over all the 64 students. So that sounds like a really good ratio. It's good to hear. My other question was, in the presentation, you mentioned an implementation plan. Can you explain more about that? Was that with the students and how they planned to implement what they learned?
How the student to do what?
You mentioned an implementation plan in the presentation.
Yeah,
Can
yeah.
you explain what that was?
I mentioned the implementation plan because at the end of the workshop, we had to ask the students to say something as a way forward. What do they plan to do with this knowledge they achieved from the 2 days training? And then they formulated a plan of work with the activities which they are going to implement in their area of practice.
I think that sounds really great. Yeah, no, I think that sounds really great. And I don't think that's something we've heard from every school, but I think that's a good strategy for getting students to learn about what they're actually going to do, and then makes them more likely to implement what they've learned. So thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, because if you arrange something with somebody, as when we are living, we agreed with this plan because the plan was discussed, and we promise each other as we are moving now with the evaluation, we are following the points they highlighted in their plan. That's what we are following because they promised and they planned it themselves. So I think we are going to do something which we agreed at the end of the training.
Well, we look forward to hearing what you find, and what you find in your follow-up evaluations. Thank you for planning those. So we have a few questions coming into the chat box. So the first is, and these are related to the AfriHealth abstracts. First question is, who can prepare and submit the abstract? Can everyone develop the abstract and submit?
Do you want me to answer that, Cheyenne?
Yeah, right, that'd be great.
So thanks for that question, Dr. Asmarov.
Yes, thank you very much.
Anybody can.
Me, Mike, there's a lot of voices here. That's why I can't hear you properly. Sorry. In our place, we've got a lot of voices here. That's why I can't hear you properly.
Apologies for the poor audio at my end. Let me see if I can address that. Dr. Asmarov, anybody can submit an abstract. If you're using the data that you collected from your institution, then you may have to include the principal investigator or the project director from your institution, which obviously you know who that is where you are. But I think anybody can. I don't think there's any reason that there is any any limitation on who can submit, but I would encourage you to have a process at your facility, your institution for who submits. So that's the answer to that first question. I hope that answers, Cheyenne.
Great, thank you, Mike. And then we're going to jump back to Agnes. There's a question for you. How many modules did you all cover, and how many days was the training?
Are you asking to Mike or me?
Oh, sorry, Agnes, I'm asking you. So for your Stripe HIV training, how many modules were covered and how many days long was the training?
How many what covered? There's a lot of noise here. Repeat it again.
How many, the number of modules and the number of days?
We had 12 modules, 11 modules.
11 modules.
Yeah.
And how many days did you deliver the 11 modules in?
We train about 5 modules the first day, and the next day we take the 6 modules. And these were those modules which were related were integrated, were taught together. This I can say they were taught together in a form of group discussion.
Okay.
Especially the community and the health, the community and the one of the health system.
Yeah, so I think that's module 13 and module 14. That's something we've heard from one of our South African partners. So that's a learning for us. And then about how many hours each day were the modules being discussed?
Okay, funny enough, we followed the minutes which were highlighted in the modules, and only that few minutes. Some of them took a lot of time, but we find we compensate when you come to other modules with a different approach. But we were late to leave in the evening. We ended the program in the evening, very late in the evening, at 6 p.m.
Wow, that's really impressive that you guys powered through.
Yeah.
Do you have any recommendations for preventing learner fatigue and for powering through? Did you guys do anything fun to energize the room?
Yeah, in between, after every hour, we had the 5 minutes in energize every 5 minutes, every 1 hour, and because it was there was a very hot discussion in between. It was not easy for the students to get tired. They were very motivated. You can see even the groups in the groups discussion. You can see the way they are very alert. They were very eager to know, and they wanted us to add more hours the next day, but it was quite impossible. So what if we find it possible to handle the student in a way that if they won't be tired, is after every hour, do energizer, and the energizers we did was for 5 minutes, and also we had the tea in the at 10, we had the lunch, and we had the tea in the 4 p.m. tea, and lastly when we are leaving the room, 6 p.m. they were given water.
Well, thank you so much. That sounds really great. And good job to you all for keeping everyone energized and engaged until 6 p.m. And I'm really happy to hear that you were able to cover so many modules. So Agnes, thank you so much. It doesn't look like we have any other questions. I'll turn it back over to Mike in case he has any other questions.
Okay, and thank you too. Sorry for these noises accompanying our place.
No, you are great, and apologies if Mike and my audio is
Myself, I didn't
bad.
hear. Sometimes I can't hear you properly because of noise. Okay, thank you, Mike.
Okay. And actually, I just want to repeat your answer, Agnes. Our Nigeria team missed the response on the number of modules. And so just to repeat to everyone, they covered 11 modules in 2 days. But thank you, Agnes, and thank you, Mike. And thank you, everyone, for joining.
Thank you very much. Thank you for accompanying this presentation. Okay, bye, Mike.
All right, Mike, I think we're all set, so we will end there. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you all. Yeah, this is Mike signing off too. Really, it's been great to have you all on the call, and thank you, Agnes. We look forward to supporting you. If you want to share abstracts and you need your data, reach out to us, and we're happy to share that.
I will share the data which will come from the implementation plan.
Perfect. Great.
Thanks very much.
Mark and Shay and the Tanzania group. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Dr. David.
Thanks, Mark. Good. Yeah, coming.
Congratulations to the MEPIN team for the video award as well.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks so much.
Thank you, Mike.
It's not with Lazarus.
Yeah.
It's not excited. Thanks so much.
Okay, guys. See you in 2 weeks' time.
Yo, sure.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Bye. See you.
For the video awards.